You talk a little bit about injuries. I mean, Scott Lewis obviously came out of the Miami game. Where do you stand with him in the offensive line, first of all?
We will have five. We will have five offensive linemen Wednesday night. Who those five are and where they play, I'm not 100% sure. But
show up Wednesday and find out.
Yeah,
right?
Wednesday we'll have five guys out there. And you know, I'm laughing because if not, I'd cry about it. But it's Scott Lewis is a really, really tough kid, and you know, somehow, some way, I think he'll get himself ready to play. Ben Boychuk is a very, very tough kid, and somehow he'll get himself ready to play. And if we can get one of those two guys, if we can get a full game out of those two, we'll be fine. You know, everybody else is set. I mean, Tyler Donahue's ready to go, Dominic Flellen's ready to go, Chip is ready to go, Jordan Russos is ready to go. It's that position, and again, if those two weren't so tough and didn't love football so much, I might be a little bit more concerned, but I mean, you know, those two are two of the toughest players in our program. If there's any two guys that'll play through pain and injury, it's those two.
How about defensive backfield? Will you have Cam Truss?
Cam Truss practiced yesterday, and it was great to have him back. I mean, Cam really, from the time he started, was probably playing as well at corner as anybody in our program. So getting him back will definitely help us. And he's another, again, he's a tough, he's going to be a very good player, and he's already becoming a good player, and again, he's got some toughness to him too. And again, how do you get through these times? The tough kid's got to step up, and you know, Scott, Ben, Cameron, those guys are all tough guys.
What's your kicking situation? In the second half against Miami, wasn't it Burkhardt that kicked off?
Yeah, on the one punt that got blocked on the bad snap, Brian, you know, kind of a part of his foot swelled up, and again, you can figure out the mind of kickers. You're a step ahead of me. But it's obviously, I mean, Brian's a pretty tough kid too, and he said it hurt in a spot that he could punt but not kick. And so the second half, we had Kyle Burkhardt handle the kickoff job, but Brian was still able to punt. And that'll probably be a game time decision, just depending on how Brian, however that part of his foot feels. You know, if that part of his foot feels fine, he'll kick off. If not, then Kyle will handle the kickoff and the place kicking.
Okay, and so Kyle will still be doing the place kicks, and Brian, you would expect, would be doing the punting.
Punting, and then the kickoff job is the one that we're not sure of. And again, when sometimes in those training room reports, they use words and body parts I don't quite understand. So I just, can he go yes or no? And they told me they should know by Tuesday.
Correct to assume it's his kicking foot?
Yeah, that's the part of the foot I don't have, whether it was the right or the left one, I've figured that one out. So yeah, it's his kicking foot, it's his right foot.
Coach, could you talk about Toledo?
Done a great job of creating turnovers. You know, you look at where they are statistically in terms of offense and defense, and you think you're playing about a 500 team because they're middle of the pack in their offensive numbers and their defensive numbers. But whenever a team kind of overachieves, a lot of times you look at turnover margin. You could look at the same thing from us a year ago. One of the reasons that, despite where our defensive numbers were, we still won football games is that we did not turn the football over. And they're doing a great job of winning turnover margin. I think they're, you know, one of the top teams in the country in terms of generating turnovers. They're number one in the MAC in terms of turnover margin. And you know, when you get 8 more possessions than your opponents, it's going to help you win some football games. And in some of their big wins, it's directly attributable to their turnovers. So obviously it's a key for us that we need to generate some, and it would certainly help us to win that battle this week.
And their offense, they got the new quarterback in there, Owens, and then also maybe if you could talk about Eric Page and kind of what he's been able to do.
Well, you know, their offense, you know, people will talk about, you know, Danton going down and Owens, but, you know, their offense is based on their offensive line. I mean, they have, I think, a combined, I want to say it's like 149 combined starts in their offensive line. You know, by contrast, our 5, I don't know, have as much as their 1. You know, so they have a very experienced, very veteran offensive line. They have a very experienced and veteran tight end. Eric Page is one of the best receivers in the conference, if not the country. And, so and Thomas had a great game last week. He's one of the, I think, better running backs in the MAC. So they do enough things in terms of their screen game and getting Page the ball quickly, and their ability to run the football with Thomas. At the end of the day, your quarterback has to make plays, but I think they have tried to minimize the amount of difficult plays their quarterback has to make. And when you have a skilled guy like Page and a guy that can run it like Thomas, I think that those things help. So, those two are very good players. And, Owens is a good quarterback. He's very skilled. He throws, he's got a great wrist. He has a live arm. He's athletic. He can make plays with his feet. It's not like they're playing a guy without talent. And this will be his second start. I'm sure he learned a lot from the first start. But even if you watch that game, I mean, they have some real strengths. And their offensive line, Thomas and Page, are certainly the focus of their offense.
More about Page. On special teams, he's also a weapon for them, isn't he?
Oh, he's just a great open field player. So, after last year's game, I encouraged him to go to the draft early. So I'd encourage him to do that again. I know he's got to wait a year, but maybe he can petition the NFL. He's a really good player. And he's just dynamic, and he plays hard, and you can tell he's a smart player. He knows how to set up defenders. They have a whole package of double moves they work with him that if you're trying to leverage one side of the route, they'll allow him to cross face. They really do a nice job of trying to get him isolated and trying to create mismatches with him. And he's obviously smart because they're able to move him around a lot, just like we did Freddie last year. And I think that's the next step of his development. Is a year ago, he was a little bit more stationary. Now that he knows the offense better, they move him all over the place, which it becomes hard to cover a guy when he's not always lined up in the same position.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.